Okay, now,
And if I push it again, it would pause, right? Okay. So unless they really move around a lot, I can basically leave it in the same spot.
you bet.
Okay.
I wouldn't think that they would.
Whimpering and begging also.
That helps too.
There.
I'm with the CPC Stationary Warehouse in Sterling Heights, Michigan. This morning I'd like to tell you a little bit about our project, but I'll start off by first telling you what we are. When people think of Morrison Knudsen, I think they normally think of construction. I know when people ask me who I work with and I tell them MK, they ask me what we do, I always want to say international construction, design engineering, construction management, or whatever. However, on this project, it's a little bit different because we're into office supplies retailing. And that really doesn't stick out as a normal MK function. To give you a little more detail about what we do, and what the project is, this morning I'll try to cover these points. What is our contract? What is the CPC Stationary Warehouse? How it works, why it works, and last but not least, how it makes money. First of all, is our project so much different than what other normal MK projects represent? We've taken a normal construction project, which starts out with design engineering in most cases, and then not using the phases that are equally important. We have purchasing, inventory, and warehousing of supplies, and then issue or delivery of supplies to the construction sites, and finally, last but not least, construction. The way or how our job works, basically, will be shown by this diagram. CPC, which is our client, Chevrolet Pontiac Canada, selects the products that they want us to sell. They, in turn, MK gets the specifications. We maintain and publish the specifications to our various vendors. Quotations are sent out. When the quotations come back in, they're analyzed, passed on to CPC, who makes the final selection, which in turn establishes the selling price being the vendor's cost plus a markup. Then turned back into MK. MK issues the purchase orders, which then puts it into MK's system. MK uses the MMS, the material management system that's been developed here in Boise many years ago, as an inventory control mechanism. And through that system, we do our receiving and warehousing, our distribution to our General Motors customers, and finally, invoicing and collection of funds. I do want to point out here that when MK does receive the material, it belongs to the inventory belongs to MK. MK has ownership, and there is a clause in our contract which specifies that at the end of the contract, CPC will pay us for whatever's in our warehouse. Next, I'd like to cover why it works. What is the concept of our operation? CPC has developed the concept of controlled buying. In other words, they do not buy everything that's in a catalog. They do not offer that. They try to limit the number of different items that they offer to their people out of office supplies. This versus a candy store operation, which means you get an open catalog, both like Boise Cascade or such, and it takes care of all the wants and I wants and I needs and desires, often at a much greater cost. An example of this, to show you how it does work, I picked two examples. The first one is fine line markers. Boise Cascade, in their catalog, has 50 different fine line markers. Okay, in the times period that was used for this study here, one BOC plant of GM in Flint, Michigan, bought 26 different types of these 50 markers. CPC has reduced this down to only 8 of these fine line markers. If you take the cost of what the 26 items bought by GMBOC in this time period, their average cost was $49 a dozen, whereas the CPC average cost is $1.91. Using the volume at this time, we would have savings of $5,100 or a penalty, the way the CPC calls it, or 61%. I think the next example is even more dramatic, and that is ballpoint pens. Boise Cascade offers 132 different types of ballpoint pens, some of them ranging up to a couple $100 a dozen. GMBOC purchased 129 of the 132. The whole was all the other 3. CPC offers only 13. The average price during this time for GMBOC was $3.26 a dozen, whereas CPC is able to buy them through their quantity buys at 77 cents a dozen, for a net penalty of this kind of $16,800 or 76%. To carry this a little bit further, a study was done taking 215 items of like type items between the open catalog and the CPC controlled buying idea. Using the annual volumes of CPC for that time period, the controlled buying would have cost $767,000, whereas the candy store was $1.2 million, for a net penalty of $433,000 or 55.48%. Bringing this to the future, or to the present, I guess, and forecasting for the future, the controlled buying using 1990 CPC volumes would have been $4,700,000. If these same products would have been bought through the candy store operation, would have been $7,300,000, a net penalty of $2.6 million. This is the same 55.48% that I've shown on the last slide. That basically is how it works, why it works, and what our contract is. Now, I think the most important thing, and why you people are here, is how it makes money. Basically, we make our money. We have an operating budget of $1.9 million, which includes our fee, our salaries, and all of our operating expenses. The way we make our money is we have a 60% markup on our regular staff charges and 45% markup on temporary help, and this is after all the burden has been passed through direct to the customer or to the client. Also, from a project level concept, we get 2/3 of prime plus 0.5% on our average inventory balance, which makes up profit for the project level. To summarize, I think what we have here is a new type of operation for MK, and bottom line is we return 48% on our capital employed, and we have little or no risk, including our inventory value. Are there any questions?
What do they spend on those type of items a year? Was that $7 million and change? Is that everything?
Our sales for this year total is going to be about $9.4 million. That was just CPC's portion of it.
And it's all office supply.
It's off from computer paper, stationery paper, pens.
But we're not talking structural steel. And
Nothing at all.
nothing
Our
of that
biggest
crap.
package, in fact, one of the questions we ask our warehouse workers is, can you lift 55 pounds? That's the heaviest box we have in the warehouse.
How do you rank with MK's office supplies, distribution, forms?
It's a very political question. We've tried to sell to MK Boise here, and we're making very slow inroads into that. We can beat anything on the street as far as Boise Cascade can do, because we get a markup of only 6% off of the manufacturer's price, whereas a Boise Cascade or some other mouse box or whatever would have like a 45%, maybe 40 to 45%. But you still have to combat people that have been dealing with the same guy down the street that you call him up and he has the stuff there in half an hour, and to make that delivery that fast. So from that standpoint, it's, you know, they can save a lot of money, but it's not enough money for them to turn off their old connections in a lot of cases. So,
I noticed that the GM people bought 129 different pens, different kinds of pens, and they only offer 13. Are you able to meet what they need? If
Well,
they got 129 different kinds, maybe they don't like the 13 you've got.
right. We do have a spot buy possibility or option 2, which means if you want to cross pen, and we do have that thing happen with the CPC, I guess, the way I understand it would be like equivalent to people on the 4th floor here. They don't want a big pen, they want a cross pen, and they're going to have a cross pen whether you offer it or not. We can get that. And we're, right now, in fact, we just, within the last month, have set up an agreement with one of our distributors where we will get 45% discount, even on our spot buys, off the catalog price that they offer to the public. I mean, if you walk into an Office Max and want to buy a cross pen, you may pay, you know, $40 for it. Whereas if you buy it through us, we can get that $40 minus a 45%.
Okay, now shipping and handling, is that within the cost?
We provide all the freight. If we UPS it, it goes right through our CPC contract. We don't even pay that ourselves. CPC pays that directly. And all the other freight, like if it happened to be a pallet load or something like that, we pay that.
Thank you.
So there's no freight charges to customers.
Okay. Other questions that you have relative to the subject matter? Okay, tell me, this makes it, Jeff, were you uncomfortable now doing it that way?
No, it felt easier, I think.
Right.
I see the flow better for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's an impression that comes out of it, all right?
Does that seem more comfortable or not?
No, you seem stronger.
Stronger.
There's a strange term that people use in our discipline. We talk in terms of the manifestation of control or power, and somebody wrote an article and they caught hold on that language. A speaker who is manifesting power is someone, even in their kind, gentle, sweet, loving, but they stand in front of an audience and they have the audience. And there's a real sense of being in charge of what is going on. And we kind of look for that, what's happening. Yesterday afternoon, for instance, the old speaker was very, very nervous. And it becomes very obvious that it's hard to show the power when the nerves are there. This seems stronger then.
Yesterday was my first time I've done it
Okay.
with people. Okay, I've done it in front of the mirror or about in the room, but
Well,
first time was yesterday. So
That's the
today-
second variable. And if you were to follow around and watch this being done, guys, in a variety of different environments, the difference between the first and the second is, honest to God, it's almost unbelievable what happens to people. And it's the hardest sell to make. Rehearse a presentation. They said, I don't know.
Rehearsing it in your room.
No. I
Isn't
mean
the
a
same.
dry run. This is where.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So when we're fooling around out in all these just various places, we're doing the New York bit and everything else. It's almost immeasurable the impact it has for us to do these formal rehearsals that are coming up, that the New York team's got coming.
Yeah.
The same thing we do with the New Orleans group and all these others. It makes a huge difference in the way in which you respond. In this case, it's a much stronger, much smoother. Flow was good.
Yeah, I felt a lot more
Good
confident.
modifications on that, by the way.
I didn't change the one, but I didn't realize until this morning it was too late.
Well, the only thing on there was just getting a little bit of language out and changing the word issue, if I remember correctly, and that can
Yeah.
stay the way it is. That's
Yeah,
not a
that's
biggie.
what I realized. That one I didn't change the top of that.
But if you're going to do this at all, I mean, if you ever go out and somebody says, "Who the hell are you?" Well, I'll be fast. You might want to do those modifications in good form.
Oh, we're going to go back. We want to put this together
Okay.
as a group now, kind of refine it.
Okay.
That's why it was
I'm curious, by the way, you use the European 7.
I worked overseas for 6 years.
Okay. I was wondering about that because I've not seen that
I
very
cannot break that habit. I've tried too because it does bother people when I write up something. But,
I see it intermixed. It's gotten so,
Yeah,
it's
I-
humiliating.
I was in Africa in Colombia, and in Colombia, if you didn't do that, it was a 1 every time. And I learned too many times the hard way not to do it.
Well, I noticed too that much more. What do you need, Ralph?
When does Ray come in? What's his presentation?
Well, it was going to be last, but
Okay, I just want to know. Thanks.
yeah, okay, really well. I noticed that the cross on the Z, the Z, the European Z, has almost become standardized. I see more and more of that.
So it doesn't look like a 2.
I'm even catching myself doing it, and I have no European background whatsoever other than ancient European background. That's Ireland, that doesn't count. But the 7 was noticeable. Now, the reason I brought this up is remember we were playing around with what the hell M is that? Where did M come from? And then
I think my 7 was a little more universal than his M.
you know what the other one is though? Architects use a T that looks like a 7 that has a cross